A number of head teachers admitted that they registered primary 6 pupils, mostly girls, to sit the PLE. The reason given for this was that parents were worried about girls' fast growth and the uncertainty surrounding their going back to school soon. Details on candidate performance are contained in the release statement that will be presented by the Executive Director. We note with satisfaction that results are comparable to the previous year despite the closure of schools. Honorable Minister, cases of examination malpractice in this examination were reported and are being investigated. The board notes with great concern that in some districts, those assigned to distribute examination materials to examination centers were caught trying to access the contents during transportation. This is unfortunate because they were trusted. The board therefore appeals to the local government authorities in all the districts to take keen interest in all the stages of examination management in their districts, instead of just leaving it to officials that are assigned. Honorable Minister, the board is grateful to you for steering the UNEB bill through all the stages to enactment by Parliament and assent by His Excellency the President. We now have the UNEB Act number 1 of 2021, which has given the board more functions and more powers. The sanctions are much more deterrent than in the repealed law. The board has planned to hold sensitization workshops for all stakeholders across the country to discuss the implications of the new act. This activity will be carried out as soon as the conditions allow. I thank you most sincerely, Honorable Minister, and the Ministry as a whole for the support that you have given to the board to ensure that through this very difficult time, we are able to deliver on our mandate. I thank all the persons who participated and carried out various roles in the successful management of the 2020 PLE. I congratulate the successful candidates and the teachers who prepared them for the examination. I am grateful to the Executive Director and staff of the UNEB Secretariat for the commitment and hard work that ensured smooth conduct of the examination despite the challenges, and to my colleagues on the board for the guidance they provided.
Honorable Minister, we are indeed pleased to present to you the results of the 2020 primary leaving examination, which was conducted smoothly on the days that our chairperson has mentioned, 30th and 31st. The theme that was adopted, Mama, was integrity and security in the management of examinations. The health and safety of the learners is a joint responsibility. Mama, this is the theme that we thought would emphasize on the sanctity of the examination process and at the same time take into account the conditions that were prevailing at the time when the children took the examination, to ensure that all of us who are involved in the exercise took this into account. Needless to say, the COVID-19 pandemic presented unprecedented challenges to the board, and indeed the Ministry of Education and Sports, the local governments, examination centers, and examination officials in ensuring that adequate preparations were made in the conduct of the examination in accordance with the regulations governing the conduct of examinations and the standard operating procedures as issued by the Ministry of Health. Registration of the candidates. Honorable Minister, a total of 749,761 candidates from 14,300 centers or schools registered for the year 2020 PLE, compared to 695,804 in the previous year. Of this number, 513,085 or 68.4%, and from 11,231 schools or centers were the beneficiaries of the government's free education or the UPE, and 31.6% or 236,677 of those candidates were privately sponsored candidates. Mama, the table number 1 gives the details of the candidature which we have given for the last 5 years. From that table, there is indication that the candidature increased by 53,957 or 7.75% over the previous year. As the chairperson has mentioned, this is the highest rate of increase that we have ever recorded. And candidature had in the previous years been increasing by an average of 2.5 over the last 5 years. So this year was unprecedented in that we had more than 3 times. Of those that are registered, Mama, 353,925 or 47.2% were boys, compared to the girls that made up 52.8%, indicating that more girls than boys completed the primary education cycle. And Mama, this has been the trend that we have seen over the last 5 years. We've been registering slightly more girls than the boys. There were also the learners that are characterized as special needs. 1,599 of these from various categories: the blind, the deaf, the physically handicapped, dyslexics, and those that were partially blind, among others, did register for the examination. And 47% of those were females and 53% were males. In the table below, we are giving the details of the candidates who registered and those that sat for the examination over the last 5 years. The table indicates that the percentage of absentee candidates has also declined slightly compared to previous years. In 2016, we had as high as 2.7% of the children registering but not taking the examination. And this figure has gradually reduced, and this year we had 1.7% or 12,819 who did not take the examination for various reasons. The performance of candidates by subject. We have compared the performance, the 4 subjects over the 2-year period, 2020 and 2019, in table number 3. The performance we have reported here at distinction, credit, and overall pass levels. The table, Honorable Minister, indicates that if you look at the column under 8 compared to the column in 2020 compared to the column 8 in 2019, you will see that there was an overall better performance by the candidates in the English language. The other two, science and social studies, performance have remained quite comparable. And indeed, when you look at the distinction level for science, we are recording 10.9% of the children who are able to pass this subject with a distinction compared to 4.9 in the previous year, showing a remarkable improvement in 2020. It is mathematics where we noticed a slight decrease. Mama will compare also the subject performance by gender. We have on one side the males and the other side the females, and we are also comparing these at the distinction, credit, and overall pass level. What is seen from the table is that the girls are better in English at all the three levels, at distinction, credit, and overall pass. The boys then perform better than the girls in the other three subjects of social studies with religious education, integrated science, and mathematics. Mama, as we have reported in previous years, the candidates' performance in English and mathematics tended to be a little poorer in questions that require them to have free expression or to apply concepts that they have learned to solve problems. Where the questions were a bit more direct and based on recall, the performance has been good. This has been the case for quite some time, meaning that teachers need to do a little bit more in getting the children to be able to apply concepts that they have learned in mathematics to solve simple day-to-day problems, and to have English as functional as possible. Examiners again reported that the children exhibited very good handwriting. Organized work was also presented even when the answers were not correct, but they presented very organized work. Mama, we now present the overall performance by division, which is shown in table number 5. We see that this year, 2020, the cumulative number of candidates who passed this examination in Division 1 is 11.1. This is 1 percentage point better than 2019, and that is quite significant. The overall pass levels are quite comparable, although many people expected that perhaps the performance was not going to be good, but we can see that the percentages, the other grades are quite comparable. Where there is a small difference, those differences are not statistically significant. In terms of numbers, we have 659,910 candidates who passed the PLE this year, compared to 17,150 the previous year. Overall, therefore, Mama, more children have qualified to proceed with their education to the post-primary institutions than in previous years. And the rate of increase, because of the rate of the high registration, the rate of increase is also much, much higher. And so there will be many more children for whom the ministry will have to find places in the post-primary institutions. Mama, the grading at this level is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those have passed and qualify for PLE certificates. And then we have U, which is ungraded, meaning that those children who have been given that grade have not met the minimum requirements to be graded at Division 4. And we normally revise that. They go back and do the examination again. Mama, we have also compared divisional grades by funding in table 6. We are comparing the candidates who went through the UPE and those that were in the non-UPE schools. Mama, these results are also similar to what we have seen before, that overall the UPE, the non-UPE children, though they are much fewer, they are less than half of the children who were in the UPE schools. Proportionally, in terms of percentages, they perform better than the UPE children. Most of the in the non-UPE schools, it should be noted that most of these study in schools that are in urban areas. Most of the UPE schools are with the people in the rural areas. And studies that UNEB has conducted through its National Assessment of Progress in Education have consistently shown that learners in schools that are located in urban areas have been achieving at higher levels of proficiency than their peers in schools that are located in the rural areas. The reasons for this have been given. There are quite a number of them, but perhaps very significant is the fact that there is a higher level of parental involvement in the learning process in the urban areas than in the rural areas. And we think that this probably is responsible for the children in these schools doing better than those in the UPE schools, where we find much less parental involvement in the children's learning. Mama, we have also prepared, we are comparing the overall pass levels in terms of gender, and we can see that proportionally the males have performed better than the females, and they have also recorded a lower failure rate than the females. We've also shown, Mama, performance of special candidate groups. The first are the inmates. The Uganda National Examinations Board has, through the prison service, by maintaining an examination center at Luzira Upper Prison, to also try and rehabilitate the offenders who are incarcerated therein. This center this time presented 58 candidates who registered. 53 of them sat. The others either were released before they took the examination or did not take the examination for reasons that we are not aware of. Of those, we are happy to note that 5 of them passed in Division 1, 23 of them passed in Division 2, 11 in Division 3, and also 11 in Division 4, and only 3 were ungraded, and this is remarkable performance. The second group are the special needs. I had earlier on given the number of candidates who registered under this category. The category are listed in Table 8. The physically handicapped at 1, there were 45 in all, and they passed as shown, 1 in Division 1, 28 in 2, and so on. Then the blind, 2 of them passed in Division 1, 18 in 2, and so on, and 35 of them took the examination. Then the largest number were the partially blind. These are given enlarged prints, larger prints than the others. And the best performance is in this group. We also had the deaf, the dyslexics, and those who needed transcribers, those who are unable to write by themselves, and somebody has to write for them. And then there were others with different forms of disability, but they could write on their own, but their speeds were affected by the nature of their disability, and the board would normally give them 45 minutes extra on each of the examinations. Their results are displayed as well. some remark on examination malpractice. There appears to have been a lot of desperation among the teachers in some districts, maybe because of the closure of the schools for some time. They felt that perhaps their children had not learned enough. So there were many, many cases of suspected external assistance given to the candidates inside the examination rooms by third parties. Some cases were also 3 cases of impersonation, where other people other than the registered candidates were brought to write the examination for those who were registered. Security personnel also arrested some people who were vending fake papers on the eve of the examination. But unlike in 2019, the cases of fake papers were much fewer. Security also arrested some distributors in the districts of Nakasongola and the Greater Masaka areas, as my chairperson has said, who were entrusted with delivering the examination papers to the exam centers, but along the way cut the envelopes with a view to access the contents. These will be prosecuted in accordance with the UNEB Act, and those who are teachers will also be subjected to the Teachers' Code of Conduct. Mama, in accordance with Section 5, subsection 2B of the UNEB Act number 1, 2021, the board will withhold results of these candidates, 2,220, pending completion of investigations. The largest number of withheld results are from the districts in the Rwenzori region, especially in the districts of Bunibujo and Kasese. Schools whose results are withheld will be notified through their district inspectors of schools. And all those whose results have been withheld, as usual, will be accorded a fair hearing by the board's examination security committee, and after the hearings are concluded, the board will publish in the media the list of schools and the districts from which results will have been cancelled. Mama, as is our practice, we give a feedback to our stakeholders through a document called the Report on the Work of Candidates. Our examiners, where the candidates had weaknesses and strengths, and advice given to the teachers on how they can improve on the weak areas. And we always request, Mama, that the stakeholders, particularly the teachers, use this report because it is very rich and can help a lot in improving the teaching learning process. Mama, I also want to join my chairperson in for the support that we have received from you, that ensured that we obtained the necessary funds to run the examination during this very, very difficult time. I must also add Parliament for approving the supplementary, and the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development for giving us the money, as our chairperson has already said. I would also like to thank our permanent secretary. He has been very, very keen on the work we do and has been very readily available to me to consult during this period anytime that I have needed him. I thank him. I thank the chairperson and members of the board for their guidance. I thank the district leaders, the chief administrative officers, the district and urban education officials, the monitors, the scouts, and the invigilators for their cooperation and support during the management of the 2020 PLE. Mama, I wish in a very special way to appreciate the staff of the Uganda National Examinations Board Secretariat.
The P7 of 2020 came back just before the exams. They had some remedial lessons through the teachers so that they can catch up with all the work they were supposed to finish and do exams. We will do programs like those for all these classes so that they can move, we can see progression, because there is no other way we can do it. We cannot say that all children come back to school. We were struggling to just bring back the candidate groups, but you remember the problem that came when those children went to school. Many of the rural areas now say that they got COVID-19 because of the children who came back from schools. So unfortunately, this has affected education, but I trust that we will find a way to have these children progress through to the different classes that they should have got to, because for some reason this has brought some resilience in learning. Every time we get an exam, we really get surprised to see how children do. They do much better than we have any expectations to see. So I'm hopeful, and we must all remain hopeful. That's why we are pleading with parents that they must do something at school when the children are at school. That they should not just make them do the home chores alone, but that they should give them space to do some studying, to listen to some of the teaching on the radios, and we are yet to send another contingent of home study materials, which is supposed to ensure that it addresses all the learning for each year in school. And that's what we can do. You must understand that there is nothing we can do that we are not doing. We are working under very difficult circumstances. That's why we need to share this responsibility with parents at home. Invested in infrastructure, performance is still poor. That is true, and we are honest about it. You heard Mr. Odong of UNEB tell you very honestly that we know that the children in UPE and USE schools have not yet been able to do as well as those from private schools. Why is that? There are many issues that bring about a situation like this. Most of the private schools also have parents who really put in a lot of work in their children's education. Most of them are in urban areas where they go to school early enough and spend a lot of time at school learning. Most of the UPE and USE schools are in rural areas where children walk long distances from home and get to school late and start lessons late and go home early to get home to school, to get home when it's light. And also we know that teachers in rural areas don't put in as much work as these other private schools do. But the president has said many times that what is important here is that many of these children in UPE schools and even USE schools are children who had no hope to ever see the inside of a classroom because the parents, the families could not afford education, to pay for education. And now, by God's grace, they are in school. They are learning. They can read, they can write, but we want to see the quality of education in UPE and USE schools become better. And we know that it will become better. But for now, we are honest about this. They are not yet better because, as I have said many times, education cannot just be done by Ministry of Education or schools alone. We are pleading all the time with families, with parents, to know that they have a role to play, that education is a shared experience, that it's a shared responsibility. We must work together. These are some of the children who go to school with no lunch at all and spend the time they spend at school hungry. And therefore, they can't put in as much work as those others do in private schools, who are taken care of, who are well fed, whose parents are really shepherding them to make sure that they do well in school. So you cannot blame education when it's not well done on just school or government even. We have to share this blame. The UPE and USE schools are not doing well yet because we have no support from the families that take care of children. Until we really share that responsibility, we may still have this problem with us for some time. Now,
it is true, government extended 20 billion during the first lockdown. That money was promised by His Excellency the President, and the money was released to the Microfinance Support Center. And the money was to be distributed, used as a revolving fund, because 20 billion, given the number of private teachers we have, if we distributed it, it would not really amount to a lot, but we thought it could be used to help them develop capacity, to look after themselves, to build their own capacity, to do business, to look after their families in future. So, ladies and gentlemen, we had challenges, as Mama stated. We had challenges of how this money could be distributed. And we also thought it was very critical that the money goes to the right people. So we started the process of reaching all teachers in the entire country and mobilizing them to form a body for private teachers. It didn't exist. We had UNATU, but UNATU basically was representing government employed teachers. So we completed that process because we went down to the districts. Each district elected their own committee, their representatives, until we formed an apex. Now that apex sat down and wrote a constitution. And when we were still in the process, we had another lockdown. And we met with them and agreed that now it was time really for them to begin to find a way of using this money as they finalize. Because after the apex, now they had to go and get a fund manager, agree a fund manager, and agreeing a fund manager would involve sometimes, procurement process, given that these are government resources. So we agreed, they agreed, and requested us, the political leadership, Mama, to approve that in the interim, just like the Walimu Circle did, in the interim, they begin using the Microfinance Support Center to manage their resource as they form their own, as they agree, the fund manager. So, Mama, the political leadership, yourself, has agreed to their proposal, and now we are waiting for them now to engage the Microfinance Support Center with the assistance of the ministry to agree the modalities of distribution of this money. So the money is now available for the teachers. Thank you very much.
Okay.